Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're unpacking something that feels incredibly timely,
Yeah.
especially if you've been following international news or, more specifically, the complex machinery of global labor markets.
Oh, absolutely. We're looking at a document called System Fluency, the 4BM Sovereign Path to Germany.
And honestly, it reads less like a brochure and more like a manifesto for navigating reality.
It really does. It's a very grounded, almost stark look at what it actually takes to move your career across borders.
Yeah.
It just cuts through a lot of the noise and, frankly, the romanticism we usually hear about migration.
Right. And to set the scene, we have to talk about what the source calls the Great Disconnect.
Hmm.
Because if you just look at the papers, on paper, things look amazing. You've got the 2024 Germany-Kenya migration agreement.
It's all over the news.
It sounds like the doors are just thrown wide open, right? High fives all around.
Exactly. The headlines suggest the seamless flow of talent. I mean, you have Germany, an industrial giant with this massive, urgent demographic need for skilled workers.
They're literally running out of people.
They are running out of people to keep the factories humming. And then you have Kenya with a surplus of highly educated, brilliant professionals who speak English.
It seems like a perfect economic match.
It sounds like a plug-and-play situation.
It does.
But what the source highlights is that while the diplomats are shaking hands and signing treaties, the reality on the ground is totally different. There is massive friction.
And that's the disconnect. The source mentions that thousands of brilliant Kenyan professionals are being rejected every single day. And the kicker is, it's not because they aren't good at their jobs.
No.
It's not a talent issue.
No, it's a translation issue. And I don't just mean German to English. It's a systemic translation issue. The source uses this phrase that I think is perfect. Applicants are flying blind.
Flying blind.
They're trying to land a sophisticated plane on a runway they can't see in a country where the air traffic control speaks a completely different code.
That is a terrifying image when you're talking about your life and your career. You're up there, you have the skills to fly, but you have zero visibility.
None.
So if people are flying blind, what are they usually doing? I assume they're looking for help.
They are, but often in the wrong places. And this is where the source identifies the trap of miracles.
Okay.
Because the pain point is so high and the desire to move is so strong, a whole industry has popped up. Agents.
Ah, the agents. I know a guy who knows a guy who can get you a visa crowd.
Precisely. And the source is very, very critical of this. It points out that people are chasing agents who sell promises, not facts.
Right.
They're selling the miracle of a visa or a job. But the German system, it doesn't run on miracles.
Yeah.
It runs on bureaucracy and law. It is arguably one of the most rigid systems on earth.
It runs on rules.
Right.
Rigid rules. And if you try to bypass them with a miracle, you just hit a wall.
Or worse, you get blacklisted. But there's another layer to this trap, which is even more subtle, the technological trap.
Oh, this was fascinating.
One of the most interesting details the source brings up is why these applications fail. It's not always a human being looking at your CV and saying, I don't like this font.
No, it's the algorithms.
It's German HR algorithms.
Let's unpack that. The algorithms literally cannot read the resumes.
Correct. So you take a Kenyan resume, which might be perfectly formatted for Nairobi, London, maybe even New York, right? It emphasizes leadership, soft skills.
Oh, things you're told to put on there.
Exactly. And you feed it into a German system, and that system is just confused. It's looking for specific data points, specific formatting, specific keywords that align with German institutional standards.
So it's looking for hard facts.
Exactly. It wants the German equivalent of your qualification. If the algorithm scans for a specific certification code and you've just listed a generic job title, the computer rejects you.
Before a human ever sees your name.
Right. You could be the best engineer in Nairobi, but because your resume isn't speaking German algorithm, you're invisible.
You don't exist.
Yeah.
You're a ghost in the machine.
And that is the core premise of this deep dive. We need to move away from guessing, away from hoping for an agent to save us.
And move towards what the source calls system fluency.
System fluency.
I like that. Sounds like a superpower. It's not just knowing the language, it's knowing how the machine works.
Exactly.
So let's introduce the guide for this journey. The source material comes from an entity called 4BM. And right off the bat, they define themselves by what they are not.
Which is smart because there are so many misconceptions. 4BM states, clearly, they are not a recruitment agency. They do not sell visas.
And they do not give out jobs.
No.
I feel like that's a hard pill to swallow for some people. Everyone wants the easy button. Here's my money. Give me the job.
But that's the transactional mindset that leads straight to the rejection pile. If anyone promises you a job for money, run.
Yeah.
4BM defines their true identity as an institutional bridge.
An institutional bridge. Okay, so if they aren't carrying you across, what are they doing?
They are building the structure that allows you to walk across yourself. The philosophy here is crucial. They don't do the work for the applicant.
Okay.
They ensure the applicant's work is compliant with German reality.
That distinction is huge. It's the difference between buying a solution, like a fake visa or a shaky job offer,
Right.
versus acquiring the tools to get it yourself.
Precisely. It's empowerment versus dependency. You know, if you buy a fish you eat for a day, and in the migration industry, that fish is often rotten.
Hey, good point.
But if you learn the fishing regulations of the Rhine River, you get the proper permit, you understand the migration patterns of the local trout, then you eat for a lifetime in Germany.
I love that analogy, even if it was very specific to fish.
Love it.
But let's talk about those regulations,
Okay.
because the source mentions some acronyms that sound, well, they sound downright intimidating.
They are. And this is where we get into the rigid code of the German labor market.
Right.
The source lists specific institutions that act as gatekeepers. The Handwerkskammer, or HWK, the German Auto Guilds, the ZDH.
ZDH.
Yeah.
It sounds like a secret society.
It stands for the Zentralverband des Deutschen Handwerks, the Central Association of German Skilled Crafts.
Okay.
And to a Kenyan professional, these institutions are invisible walls. In Kenya or the U.S., you might be a master mechanic because you've fixed 1,000 cars. You have a great reputation.
Right. Your skill is proven by your output. If the car runs, you're a mechanic.
In Germany, that doesn't matter. If the Auto Guild doesn't recognize your certification, you are not a mechanic.
Wow.
You are an unskilled laborer.
So competence isn't enough. You need the stamp of approval from the guild.
You need translation. And I don't mean Google Translate. 4BM's role is to take the complex requirements of these guilds, what they demand in training hours, theoretical knowledge, practical skills, and translate a Kenyan professional's history into a format that the guild understands.
So they're basically taking your career history and reformatting it so the German system says, oh, I recognize this.
Exactly. They make the invisible visible. And that leads us to the single most important word in this entire document. If you take one thing away from this deep dive, let it be this word.
Anerkennung.
Anerkennen. It sounds heavy. What does it mean?
It translates to recognition. But in this context, it is the legal recognition of your professional certificates.
So it's not a nice to have.
No, it is the bedrock of the German labor system. Without Anerkennung, your degree is just a piece of paper.
In many regulated professions like nursing or engineering, yes.
Wow.
You cannot practice without it. But even for trades, the source emphasizes that 4BM ensures a professional's talent is seen, recognized, and valued. And that value is literal. With Anerkennung, you are paid as a skilled worker, a Fachkraft.
And without it?
Without it, even if you manage to get a job, you might be paid minimum wage because legally you aren't recognized as an expert.
That is a massive difference. We're talking about career trajectory and, frankly, just the ability to pay rent and live a good life.
It's the difference between having a job and having a career, between struggling and thriving.
And once you have that recognition, you unlock the next piece of the puzzle the source discusses, Section 81A. Section 81A. Okay, now we sound like lawyers, but the source calls this a fast-track procedure.
It is. It comes from the Skilled Immigration Act. Section 81A is a specific legal pathway that allows employers to initiate a fast-track visa procedure for skilled workers. But, and this is a massive but, it requires that Anerkennung we just talked about.
Ah, I see how it connects. You can't use the fast lane if you don't have the right pass.
Precisely. I mean, think of the standard visa process. You apply, you wait. You wait for an appointment, you wait for processing.
It can take months.
Sometimes over a year. That's the slow lane. Section 81A is a lever. It forces the embassy to process things within specific, short timeframes.
So why doesn't everyone use it?
Because the applicant cannot file for it.
Yeah.
Only the employer can file for it.
So you need the boss to do the paperwork.
Correct. And imagine you are a German employer. You are busy. You need a mechanic. Do you want to spend 20 hours figuring out immigration law for a person in Nairobi you've never met?
No, I just hire someone else.
Right.
Or I just ghost the applicant.
Exactly. That's why people get ghosted. They are asking the employer to take on a burden.
Right.
4BM's strategy is to flip that dynamic. They help the applicant prepare everything needed for Section 81A.
So you go into the interview prepared.
You go in and say, I'm qualified, here's my Anerkennung, and I've already prepared the Section 81A paperwork. All you need to do is sign here to fast-track me.
That is brilliant. You aren't bringing them a problem. You're bringing them a solution.
You are removing the friction. You are making it easy for them to say yes. And that's what system fluency is. It's understanding the employer's pain points and solving them with legal compliance.
It really reframes the whole problem. It's not about, will Germany like me? It's, do I fit the legal template that allows Germany to process me with zero friction?
That's it. It's removing emotion and inserting compliance. Which brings us to the next big theme, friction removal.
Right, because even if you know the code, the system is still grindingly slow and difficult. The source talks about removing specific friction points. One of them is obvious, but maybe more complex than we think. Language.
The B1, B2 thresholds, we hear this all the time. You must speak German.
But is it just about ordering a coffee or chatting about the weather?
No, and that's the trap. So many people rush to get a generic language certificate. The source frames this not just as learning words, but understanding the institutional standard required for your workspace. There's street German, and there's professional German.
Like the difference between chatting with a friend and writing a technical report on a failing engine.
Exactly. If you walk into a German engineering firm and you use slang, or you don't know the specific technical term for a torque wrench or a safety protocol, you're seen as a liability.
Even with the certificate.
Even if you have the B2 certificate on paper, 4BM helps navigate what that threshold actually means for your specific industry.
So it's contextual language learning. That makes sense. But then we get the other big hurdle, the one that stops everyone in their tracks. The dreaded blocked account. For those who don't know, explain what that is, because it sounds like your bank account has been frozen by the police.
It's not that dramatic, but it is financially dramatic. Germany requires non-EU citizens to prove they can support themselves so they don't end up on welfare.
Okay.
Usually, this means depositing a significant sum of money, often over 10, maybe 11,000 euros, into a special bank account.
That is a lot of money, especially if you were converting from Kenyan shillings.
It is a fortune, and once the money is in there, it is blocked. You can only withdraw a certain amount per month to live on. It's a guarantee of solvency.
That is a huge barrier.
It is, and because the barrier is so high, there's so much misinformation. Can I borrow it? Can I use a sponsor? Is there a waiver?
Right, all the rumors.
Exactly. The source mentions that 4BM uses institutional facts to clarify this. They don't rely on hearsay. They tell you exactly what the embassy requires so you don't get rejected for financial reasons after doing all that other work.
It seems like their whole strategy is pre-embassy preparation.
That's the timeline strategy. Most people think the process starts when they walk into the embassy.
They go in to ask questions.
Right. 4BM argues the process is finished when you walk into the embassy. You're not going there to ask questions. You're going there to deliver answers.
Perfectly put. You are delivering a completed, compliant package. The interview should just be a formality.
It should be, because the logic of your application is undeniable. You have the Anerkennung, you have the language, you have the financial proof.
That brings us to the philosophy behind all of this, because this isn't just a checklist. It feels like a mindset shift. The force talks about moving from vulnerability to being self-resourced.
This is the most profound part of the document, Vinny. When you are relying on an agent or hoping for a miracle, you are vulnerable. You're waiting for someone else to save you.
You're powerless.
You're a passenger with a blindfold on. Being self-resourced means you have the facts. You understand the HWK requirements. You know what Section 81A is. You know why your resume is formatted that way.
When you have that knowledge,
the panic subsides. You stop waiting and start navigating.
It changes the power dynamic completely. Instead of begging for a spot, you are presenting yourself as a qualified, compliant professional who is ready to work.
And that leads to the partnership dynamic 4BM proposes. They say, we provide the facts and system fluency.
You provide the excellence.
That's a fair trade. But it puts the pressure on the applicant.
It does. But it puts a responsibility on them. This isn't for the person who wants to be carried.
No.
It isn't for the person who isn't actually good at their job. This is for the serious professional who is ready to do the work but just needs the roadmap.
I think that distinction is key. It's for the serious professional. If you're just looking for a shortcut, this sovereign path probably isn't for you.
It sounds like hard work.
It is hard work, but it's effective work. Chasing miracles is exhausting and usually fruitless.
Right.
Learning the system is difficult, but it leads to a predictable result. That's the trade-off.
Predictability. In a world of moving across continents, predictability is worth its weight in gold.
Absolutely. When you remove the guessing game, you remove the fear. And that allows your actual talent, the reason you wanted to move in the first place, to finally shine through.
So let's wrap this up. We started with the great disconnect. The headlines say, welcome, but the rejection letters say, go away.
And we found that the bridge between those two realities is system fluency. It's about deciphering the rigid codes of the HWK and the guilds.
It's about achieving anarchanon legal recognition.
And it's about utilizing Section 81A to fast-track your entry.
And it's about avoiding the traps. No agents selling dreams. No flying blind with bad resumes.
Just institutional facts and friction removal.
It's a shift from a lottery mentality to a strategy mentality.
I love that. From lottery to strategy. Because in a lottery, you just hope. In a strategy, you execute.
It's the only way to survive in a bureaucratic system as complex as Germany's.
It seems so.
So here's the thought we want to leave you with today. We live in a world that is increasingly governed by algorithms, rigid institutions, and complex legal codes.
Not just in Germany, but everywhere.
Right, so the question is, in this world, are you relying solely on your raw talent to break through walls? Or have you taken the time to learn the language of the system you are trying to enter? Because it seems like talent alone might not be enough anymore.
You need the code. Talent is the engine, but system fluency is the transmission. Without it, you're just revving your engine in the driveway.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See you then.